Now, there's never such thing as a quiet news week in the racing world, as we know, but that has certainly been the case in the last week. And one story that was taking over at the weekend, really, she didn't even win. Honeysuckle in the Irish Champion Hurdle, obviously won by Stateman. But the majority of the talk post-race was, what on earth are we going to do with Honeysuckle? Is she going to be retired? Is she going to go to a Champion Hurdle to try and defend her crown, or Mares Hurdle? Now, we've had a lot of debate about this, guys. So, Barry, starting with yourself, what would you do with Honeysuckle?
Well, personally, when she got beaten in the Hatton's Grace, I thought she'd ran a good race on conditions that weren't ideal for her. And I felt, no, keep going for the Champion Hurdle. She's a good mare. She needs to go back and defend her crown. But on reflection, after she got beaten in Leopardstown, I think they're making the right decision to go for the mares race. She's won her 2 Champion Hurdles, but watching her through the race in Leopardstown, to me, she doesn't have the level of cruising speed that she had before. She was on the back foot a little. She didn't jump as well as she can for that reason. She looked like she was going to get swallowed up turning in, but then when Rachel did get stuck into her, she finished strongly. She stayed on well. To me, she just looks like she needs to step up and trip. It's natural at her age to get a little bit slower. I know, for example, if you say Bob's won his Gold Cup in 2013, he came back the following year. He just lost that little bit of speed, and like that, he was in the back foot. I finished 4th or 5th. So it is natural. You could say go back and run in the Champion Hurdle, but I don't think she would figure the way you would like her to do. So she might as well go and have a chance of winning the race and sign off on a winner, because I think, as far as I know, that's to be her last run.
Yeah, that's exactly the impression. They said that this was her last season anyway, AP, didn't we? But for an emotional conundrum for Connections there, how big a conundrum is it?
I think it's pretty straightforward. They want to do what's best for her. I think coming away from Leopardstown on Sunday, do you think, is she going to beat Stateman? Probably not. So if she's got no chance of beating Stateman, she's probably not got even less chance of beating Constitution Hill. So for her to go out on a high would be to go to the Mares Hurdle. It won't be easy for her either, because the likes of Marie's Rock and that are pretty good.
Epatton too,
and Epatton could end up running in there as well. So it'll be a tough race to win. I think that what will suit her better is obviously going a little further, and that I know that she may be outstayed by Tiapu and Classical Dream in the Hatton's Grace, but the ground will hopefully be a little bit better for her at Cheltenham, and that'll, I think if you didn't own one of those other horses, you'd love to see Honeysuckle go out and win a Mares Hurdle and retire, but it's not always that easy. But I think it's obvious, if you were going to run her again, there is no question it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, like the script is there, isn't it, for Honeysuckle to bow out with the win of that. But we just said about Marie's Rock, Epatton being in there. Obviously, Barry, you know Epatton better than anyone. So what chance would you give her stepping up, obviously back up in Trip again?
Yeah, but sure, obviously Epatton would have a great chance, and she was very good at Doncaster. I thought it was the best we've seen of her in a while, albeit against weaker opposition, but she just looked to do it really well. Marie's Rock, Love Envoy. Like, it's a quality race, and people are questioning the Mares race and how it's taken from the Champion Hurdle. But 4 of the last 10 Champion Hurdle winners have been mares. So I don't think that's the case. But it sets up to be one of the most competitive races of the festival.
Definitely. And I'm a huge supporter of mares races and the mares programme. I know it's not the popular thing to be, but I think it's a class race how it's shaping up. So we hope to see Honeysuckle go well. Now, the other story that I really want to get both your opinions on, it's been a story that has been rumbling for what feels like forever now, months and months for sure. The new whip rules. Now, of course, we've seen the bans that the lads would have got had these rules been imposed now. Now, we're moving into the spring festivals and the Irish, of course, coming over as well. I mean, Barry, how concerning is this looking ahead to Cheltenham?
I think it's concerning for everyone, for Jockeys England and Ireland, because, we are aware to some degree of what level it's coming in. There is going to be implications. There's going to be bigger than normal suspensions handed out. And that's, it's easier said than done, just to be able to say, right, well, 7's your number, hand over head, where the whip strikes. A lot of these things are happening in the moment when you are in, one of the most hectic weeks of the year, in one of the most hectic situations you'll be in your life, galloping down to the last in a championship race in Cheltenham. So I know AP might have a slightly different view on it, but I just think the severity of it for minor infringements is going to really have a knock-on effect, especially for entry. I think there's going to be a shortage of jockeys for entry with the way it's looking at the minute. I don't disagree with this disqualification if you go so far above the limit, because you've lost the run of yourself if you've gone to that level. But I think to go 1 over or be slightly above head height, shoulder height, are in the wrong place, and then you bring in force. How do you judge force? Yeah. So that's up to interpretation. I think it's very harsh, and but it's been going this way, unfortunately, and it's out of our control, you could say.
It is out of our control, and the new whip rules are expected to come into force in Britain next Monday, as we record now on Tuesday. Now, Barry just said you have a strong opinion on this. So.
I'm 48. Can I go for a cup of tea? Because I think it'd be more interesting. The whip rule, I've been saying it for a long time. Look, a lot of people, Willie Mullins made it clear the other day, Paul Nicholls spoke about it, why the BHA would think about doing this before the Cheltenham Festival. Talk about bringing bad publicity in yourself. You know, what is it? Are they seeking attention to how great a job they're doing at policing the sport? Because they ain't. I have always been of the opinion, I sat in Andrew Balding's kitchen about 5 years ago with Sir Mark Prescott, and we actually, both of us kind of agreed, not everyone agrees. I think the only way that the whip situation can be stopped, that'll never be talked about again, is to have a number of hits, whether it be 6 or 7, have one over, and if you go over it, disqualify the horse. And I know they go on about Whirlpool and they go on about betting and all that. You're given red top newspapers or people on social media the opportunity to criticise your sport because you're leaving a grey area all the time. And while there's a grey area, it'll always be talked about. The only way for it never to be talked about is to have an unbreakable rule. And the unbreakable rule is to disqualify. If you're going to employ a jockey, and I know Barry says, and this is all the heat of the moment, 4, 5, 6. The heat of the moment won't be long going. If you're going out in a Cheltenham Gold Cup or an Epsom Derby and you think, it's the Derby, it's the Gold Cup, I'm going one more. You're going to do it all the time. So therefore the rule is breakable. And once the rule is breakable, you're given the opportunity to let people talk about it. And therefore it'll never go away until someone will come along and say, and they go on about governments, and I've heard people say, you go into Parliament, or you go into the government, and they talk about they want to do away with it. They can't look after themselves, the government. So you need to worry about your own. So that, you look at what's happened going for the last, during lockdown, and the way that the people that were, they have enough to be doing worrying about themselves, and they're worrying about our sport. So I think the sport should get in the front foot, get in a position where the rule is unbreakable, and that'll be the end of it. It'll never be spoke about again. No grey area, no nothing.
No, pure
until they leave
white.
the grey area, and it comes back again. It's the same thing that happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago when we had a new whip rule, and it's starting again.
Yep.
Make it simple. It'll never be spoke about again.
Very much a black and white case, and for you, but like you say, people then wouldn't be breaking the rules later
There
on.
is a place for it. There is a place for it in racing, 100%.
Yeah.
Managed properly, policed properly, and that, but don't give anyone the opportunity of breaking it.